Chris Edwards.
I'm Jayna. We're married.
I met Jayna in high school. Just before I was going to deploy, we were at a friend's house at a bonfire, and I hook, line, and sinkered her. It's what did it.
But yeah, and then the bonfire, and then it was kind of, we just kept talking. And
then, right the day before I left to go to train out to go overseas, I asked her out, and she said yes. So we did our first entire year of our relationship, me gone away for a year.
I think that helped get to know who we were, though.
I mean, we had to be pen pals, so that was kind of neat.
You definitely don't hear that happening too much anymore, so it was definitely way different of how to get to know somebody. So I knew God through this walk. When we met and then we learned each other when you were overseas, I specifically asked if you believed in God. And you had said,
huge no.
But you're like, I know there's something that's bigger than me. I just don't know what it is.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. So we got married on my birthday. I always mess this up by a year.
2016.
Yes.
So this year will be 10 years.
We've been married.
Yep. I wanted to marry her on her birthday, so
it was easier.
I never forget. And it was just a big present for her every year. So that's become rather challenging to continue to outdo myself every year. But
it's himself, not me.
It's got to be glorious.
You just brought in a lot of funniness that apparently my heart needed, and I was definitely braver then before all of the accidents happened in our life.
Accidents on my end. So I like motorcycles, obviously, and I don't typically like wearing helmets. So in 2014, I was coming back from a friend's house after working on a stock car, and I can't tell you why or how I got in a motorcycle accident, but I decided to take a nap in a ditch for 6.5 hours with a broken collarbone and collapsed lung, and then I decided to sleep for another 2 weeks, and that was the birth of a very terrible brain injury. And since then, I've had 2 more, but I guess you would say. So 2017, I tried to take my life. And I tried to roll my truck on purpose out field drive. I was trying to jump a field drive. I flipped the truck 7 times, and the truck looked like one of those trucks you'd bring to the school or the high school for like, oh, this is why you don't drive drunk, because that person didn't live. But it was like, okay. So I wasn't a believer at that time still. And it took that moment for me to go to the tow yard that next morning, look at the truck, because mind you, I walked out of the truck after flipping sometimes, and I look at it the next morning, and mind you, the truck was laying on its driver's side when it landed. When I'm looking at it in the tow yard, the driver's door didn't have a single dent in it. It was laying on that side, and the driver's window wasn't even broken until I stepped on it to get out the back window. And I just walked away with a couple scratches and a broken rib. And
most cases, no one would ever live in a vehicle that looks like this. This makes no sense. And he's like, but look at this door. And I mean, Chris is just examining this, trying to come up with a mechanical reason why, because he's so good at mechanics. He's worked on cars. He's seen crashes. I mean, all these things. Like,
I can't explain why this door is perfectly fine. I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and I flipped it 7 times. So my cousin Josh Edwards, he's like, hey, why don't you give Hope Church a try? I've got a buddy that pastors there, and I think he'd fit in real well there. Go, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. That's where I did. And the first sermon I went to was Sermon of the Good Samaritan, and I was like, boom, I'm that guy. I'd give anybody a shirt off my back. So I was like, okay, all in. And then that's where I am right now, all in with it.
I think it's been very interesting how I think our entire lives that Chris and I have known each other, like it's always consistently been, you can always pick apart that there's like 2 stories that are definitely like into one. Before Chris was even dating me, I remember telling my grandma all about him, and she's like, I've never seen you smile like that. She's like, I think you love that boy. And I'm like, I don't even know him. And she's like, no, I think you do. You don't. This is different. And then we fast forward to right before Chris's initial motorcycle accident, which caused his first brain injury. I remember just waking up in the middle of the night and I was just crying, and my brain couldn't like figure out why. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, Chris isn't home. Check the whole house. Where I really saw God in this moment is I normally would sleep just fine. And I woke up, knew something was wrong. I called everybody that he was with, and they're like, what do you mean he's not home? You know, I'm very good at praying when I really need something. And since, you know, coming to Hope, furthering my faith in like present time, I've learned to add him in everywhere. But back in this time, so 2014, I was, you know, I'm praying when I really needed something. And I remember Adam, I called him and he was startled, which was so weird because that was never a personality I'd ever seen out of Adam. And we start looking and looking and looking, and we've done hours of looking. It brought us to the police station where we were going to file a missing person report, but it was only like 4 hours into looking for him, and they said that's not enough. Adam and I prayed, and that prayer was specifically like, I just want him found, and very much pouring my heart out to God, like, and Adam as well, like, it doesn't matter what, we're not being specific, like, we just want him found. To add on to it was my father who stepped in, Matt, who found him, because the other side of the story of God showing up in this moment that was so pivotal in our lives and that later brought him to know Christ was he woke up from a sleep, and within 15 minutes literally of getting dressed, after I called my parents and said, we can't find Chris, this is what's going on. And my dad was driving, and he all of a sudden stopped in the middle of the road because something shone him in the eye, and he got out and walked right to Chris and called the ambulance. So all these things that were leading up to this, and I needed my dad. That was a moment in my life that it was like I had a dad that showed up. And I'm not saying my dad didn't show up for other things. Matt showed up for everything that I could only imagine. But at that moment, in such like a painful time, like I was able to look up on the side of the road and see my dad coming at me and being like, I've got you, like, it's okay. Now, Chris was very much, you were within an hour to 2 hours, they said, of death. Like, you were very close. Fast forward, we went through his whole hospital stays. When you woke up from your coma, you were in for 2 weeks. You had no idea who I was. That was hard. It was so hard to have him wake up and be like, I have no idea who you are. And then as I'm like holding his baby, but he knew Chevy, which was so weird about the brain injury because Chevy was a new memory and I was older, and it's like, oh, you're taking something from me, God, that I finally got that I needed. And it was a long road getting through all that because you still struggled with your addiction of alcohol and
drugs were in there too.
Yep. Yeah. And amongst all this, Chris, you had a hard time with being faithful. It was just a lot of like internet stuff, which all of that I consider stepping out. Like, I mean, lots of drinking issues, drug issues, PTSD, infidelity.
Yeah. So with the initial brain injury happening, like that lowered my mental threshold, might you say, of being able to handle all the crap, right? Keep all the stuff just bundled up and under the carpet, or just at least in control. Well, I had that brain injury, and it's just like a wide open floodgate, and so I struggled a lot. That's why I've tried to kill myself 3 times, and I'm fine. I'm glad I can admit that now and be comfortable saying, hey, I tried to kill myself 3 times. By the grace of God, I haven't been successful any of the time. So it's like, that alone, it's pretty good testimony. But
and you have a family history of family trying to commit suicide, and some success of family members. But I think one of the biggest things about when you follow Christ, it doesn't mean that the hardship just stops, because we live here. And when you go through a brain injury, I know they took us and talked to us one time when Chris was in the hospital, and they were sharing the statistics about the likelihood of people staying together after. And they basically looked at us and said, like, you're like a sinking ship.
It's a very low chance you guys will stay successfully married.
With them saying that, I know I had made a promise to God. I had said, and I didn't share this with you until a long time after, but I had promised God, I'm like, if you can just let me change one person's life. Everything I went through, with all the hard that I have felt, could very well be about today. It could be about tomorrow. It could be about just being like, I lived and God was there. Like, there is so much that you can look back on and see God, and that's what's so beautiful about it, is like, you don't have to come and show up perfect. You can come in your mess, and you can get to a point where you look back and you're like, whoa, he was there and there and there and there and there. But God's not expecting you to have believed in him then. Like, that's what's so amazing about it, is he can have you reflect back and be like, see, I had you there. And that kind of started our motto of like, we just want to help somebody understand that the stuff the world would tell us there's no reason we should be together.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
Like, you can do it. It's just hard.
no.
You have to, it's a choice. I do know one of the best things I'd ever heard from your oldest sister was she had told me one day she believes in Christ. And back when we had a relationship with her, one of the things she had shared was, she's like, it's a choice every day to wake up and be married. And it's also a choice to choose to love them. Despite all, like, we all have downfalls. Like, I am so imperfect and you are too. And despite like all these bad things that we bring up to like show that like marriage can be hard, relationship can be hard, but you got to just keep trying. Chris is the person that would give his shirt off his back and help someone walking by the window right now. Like, that's just you. And God was tugging. I mean, you were bawling in a way I've never seen in my life of knowing you, and you went down and received God, and it was just different. It was so different. He was so different. But there was still a lot of bad happening.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course. There was still a lot of stuff that I was doing that I shouldn't be doing. But
we were still growing
as
up
I've come to
too,
know Christ, like, God's okay with that. Like, he's okay with you coming as you are. He doesn't expect you to be perfect and come to him. No, just come to him, and then you'll wash away your crap to become better. And I've noticed that because, I mean, God uses so much bad in my life for good. And like hindsight 2020, I look back at everything I've been through and be like, oh, okay, I see where I was stiff-arming God there. Oh, okay, I see where I did that too there. All right, so that I can see that, and I can change my view in that moment and think differently and do differently. But yes, I've been extremely horrible to my wife at times. And
so we fast forward to just going through life. Wouldn't you say we still were having the drinking issues? You did stay sober for quite a while, and then you kind of fell off the bandwagon. I brought a lot of trauma, holding on to bitterness and unforgiveness to our marriage consistently, daily.
emotional damage.
Yeah, a lot of distrust. And I think I had such a skewed version from a male's perspective of what love was, other than from my dad, who I call Matt Dad. I think that's where like we now's time we're able to look back and be like, that is what I brought to the table. And then like Chris brings up like his. So then we fast forward further, and we're still dealing with this junk, but we're also coming to church and we're trying to bring God into our life. And there was times where we hit a burnout of like, why isn't this better yet? This is getting dumb. Like, how is it not better yet? And we kept pursuing God, but also like we decided we did want another kid, but I wasn't supposed to be able to have any more kids. So then we were mad at God about that. I remember we were so mad. Like, why can't we just have another kid? And so I first met some people from Hope Church because we went to community group. And then they started praying with us that we would be able to have a baby. And then all of a sudden we come to 2020 in September, and I gave birth to Freya. I feel like there's such a difference in like, right, I have faith, and like I have faith. Like, it's like you're on different levels, and it doesn't mean your different levels aren't good. It's just like we truly learned what it meant to be like a baby in faith. And then like we're still not up there yet, but like we're going up, and we're realizing like these things we bring to the table. And I think one of the biggest things that I would want to share is, like, are you okay that I
Go ahead.
so before Freya, 2 weeks before we had Freya, Chris had physically stepped out of our marriage, and it broke me really bad. It was very difficult. I couldn't understand what I did wrong, and babies aren't easy on me. So, yeah, it was just awful, but we had decided, like, nope, we can fight this. We can get through this. And we brought our daughter into the world together. And then the postpartum depression hit again. And then all of that hurt hit hard, very hard. And so we started going to counseling. And one of the things I learned at counseling was, how do I say this correctly? That even when someone steps out, like, you have your two people in the relationship, when one steps out of your marriage, it doesn't mean the other person hasn't hurt or brought something hard in as well. Because again, I was living in such unforgiveness for so long in our marriage that I didn't believe that I did anything wrong. I think there was a lot of times where I was up here and I pushed you down here. I'm like, well, what did I do? And through learning that I brought stuff to the table came this pain that I didn't know I had about a step stool theory.
And then I had just had enough of feeling like a step stool, and I wanted a divorce, and I was still cheating on my wife. I was still stepping out, and I felt to myself, Jayna doesn't deserve this pain, so I just wanted a divorce instead. And I didn't want to continue hurting her, so I thought divorce is the best idea. Well, we go to initiating all the divorce stuff, and we're going through the lawyers, and like, we were in it. We were just about fully there.
I was moved out
She was moved out.
with the kids.
Yep, had the kids.
So 2020 we had Freya. This was the summer of 2022.
Yeah, we had all the papers drawn. We were actively in the divorce paperwork stuff going on. And I had just gotten to the point to where I had seen how stupid I was, and I wanted my Jayna back. I wanted my wife back. So I just thought to myself, I can't see my kids. I can't do things with my family I'm trying to create. I mean, I didn't grow up that well. I grew up poor. Grew up in just a terrible household. I didn't want that for my kids or my wife. So I wanted to change that, and I just actively told myself, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and change this for the better. And that's so I continued to try and talk to her and smooth things over as best I could. And I was living my sinful life, man. I was getting divorced. I was just doing everything I could do, and I stopped all that. I stopped the drinking. I was using a little bit of drugs at the time, and I just stopped all that. And I wanted my wife and my kids back.
That kind of is what started our talking again to each other and our dating. Because let me tell you, he tried about a weekend. He's like, "Can we just undo all this?" I'm like, I don't think it works that way. And we can laugh about it now because we're like, you tried really hard, but
we got to the point to where we were able to move back in together, and it's still an everyday struggle with that because there's a lot of hurt that was there.
Well, I started coming with on your visitation time.
Yeah.
And then that kind of turned into us dating and getting to know who, like, actually Chris was and who Jayna was. That kind of got lost in all of it.
So with becoming sober again, it was an active choice to be like, hey, I don't need this. So every day I wake up, seriously, I would say to myself, I don't need this. And as far as the lusting and just continuing to just step out on my wife, it was I'm not going to do this. An active choice every single day. Like I had a mantra I would tell myself every morning, Chris, you're not going to do this. You know better. You know what it leads to.
And we have one friend couple that they have agreed in life that if something very heavy has happened, that they will allow us to share it with them and help us. And I would say that we've learned that that's very beneficial to have when you're going through hard things. And you've even said with sobriety that they so unconditionally love us as people that
So with
they will fight with us.
right, and with becoming sober, like you have to have a support system, and that was the biggest thing I did right out of the gate was because I couldn't do it all by myself, right? I couldn't just say, okay, I'm gonna stop drinking and be done. I couldn't stop doing drugs and just be done. I couldn't stop lusting and be done. Like it had to be, I had to have people around me to encourage the fact that that wouldn't be going on. So I mean, I would volunteer around in the church as much as I could. I brought my uncle in on my support system, and it was just a big quality group of men that just spoke into my life.
So now, like 2025 on to current, we've done really good at trying to communicate. Like, if it takes us hours to get through an argument conversation, well, then I guess that's as long as our kids are safe and fed and entertained, then we are having that conversation because that's the way we stay together. And we have really been learning about what it means to pray with each other or ask for one another to like pray for us or like, hey, I need you to pray for me or I need you to pray for me. I would say one of the ways that we have really found peace is that there is nothing that we're going through that hasn't actually already happened before. And we found a lot of relief in knowing that there was blessing on the other side. I think the advice that we'd give is just each day is a new day. Wake up and try again and make the choice that divorce isn't an option, because staying together has brought us way more joy than being separate. And
when we got married, like that was a covenant we decided to go into together. So whether it was God ordained out of the gate or not, it was, this is a commitment I made with you and to God that I am going to be your husband and I am going to be faithful and I'm going to be the man of the house.
we also realize that the enemy bugs us so much because God must really want us married. Like, I know that sounds so silly, but we just know that there's a reason we've been through everything we've been through. Not because God wants us to hurt, but because there's a reason for our story and what we've been through. And God can turn it and use it for his glory. And at the end of the day, we're not alone. And God rejoices in marriage.